So why can't you rely on the property tax information that's listed on sites like Zillow and Realtor.com for homes in Florida? Find out on today's episode of Rockin Real Estate News. Welcome to Rockin Real Estate News, where we are answering what's rockin' in Daytona Beach real estate. I'm Alice Cooper, and today we're talking about property taxes in the state of Florida and why you have to be careful about relying on information that you see online. So let me just start off by saying I'm not a tax expert, and this is a really simplified version of what property taxes are and how they're calculated. There's a lot more that goes into the property tax equation, things like non-ad valorem taxes, which are special charges added to your bill for things like stormwater and solid waste, fire and rescue. Now, these items aren't based on the value of your property, so I'm not even going to go into those. What I am trying to illustrate is the big picture of how taxes are valued in regards to your home, your exemptions, and what you'll owe in taxes. So let's dive in. Now, almost every real estate site out there is going to have a section that lists the amount of property taxes that's currently being paid on any given property in the state of Florida. In fact, even when you're working with an agent and they give you an MLS printout, print it out on that sheet, it's going to have that tax information there. Now, that information you're seeing is correct. It is the amount of property taxes currently being paid every year by the current owner, but that's not necessarily the amount that you're going to pay if you buy that property, and here's why. The state of Florida has a number of exemptions. Most Florida residents take advantage on their primary home, and homestead exemption is the one you'll most commonly see. But there are other exemptions you might be eligible for, such as if you're a veteran, a widow or widower, disabled, blind, or a senior over the age of 65. Now, each exemption reduces a certain amount of your tax liability. For example, if you're disabled, blind, a widow or widower, your tax liability could be reduced by $5,000 for each of those that you qualify for. Then you have larger exemptions like homestead and senior exemption, which reduces your tax liability by $50,000. For example, if you were an eligible senior with homestead exemption, your tax liability could be reduced by $100,000. Some people even qualify for a total tax exemption, perhaps if they were a permanently disabled veteran or a surviving spouse of a veteran who died in service. There are also special exemptions for properties with specialized uses. But here's the thing. Exemptions are not transferable to the new owner. Property taxes in Florida are paid in arrears, which means if you buy a property with a bunch of tax exemptions, you will inherit that low tax amount for the first year. But when your tax bill comes out the following year, the exemptions will go away. Your new property taxes are calculated on the new assessed value, and then they will subtract whatever exemptions you qualify for. What does that mean for you when you're buying a new property? It means you can't rely on that property tax information because your property taxes will likely be different from the amount shown. Let's say there was an elderly widow who bought a home in 2008 with an assessed value of $200,000. She has homestead, she's a widow, and she's a senior. Property taxes in the state of Florida are calculated on the assessed value minus any exemptions. So an assessed value of $200,000 minus $50,000 for homestead, $50,000 for senior exemption, and another $5,000 for widow exemption. This brings that taxable value of that property down to $95,000. Now you would take that taxable value and divide it by 1,000, multiply it by the millage rate to determine how much taxes you owe. In '08, the millage rate was roughly 12.8, so the taxes owed at that time was only $1,212. So now we fast forward to today. And the widow has owned the property for all these years, and the property is going to be reassessed each year, and the taxes are calculated at the current millage rate. But another advantage of homestead is the Save Our Homes benefit. Now, this means the assessed value of your property can't be increased by more than 3% each year, meaning taxes are capped for as long as you own that property. Now, I know this is a lot to take in, but bear with me. Let's take a look at what this widow's taxes might look like in 2024. Let's say the property is now worth $400,000 in today's market because, let's face it, prices have gone up considerably since 2008. And thanks to the Save Our Homes benefit and that 3% cap each year, the assessed value of the property is only $275,000. She still has all of her exemptions, so you subtract those, and that puts the taxable value at $170,000. Then again, the taxable value is divided by 1,000, multiplied by the current millage, and that would put her taxes around $3,050. So let's imagine you're shopping for a vacation home and you find the widow's property on Zillow and you fall in love. The property tax field shows $3,050, so that's what you're going to pay, right? Wrong. Here's why. Now, the assessed value of the home is $400,000, but the homestead exemption and the Save Our Homes benefit don't transfer to the new owner. And because you're buying the property as a vacation home, you can't claim the homestead exemption because it's not your primary residence. So your property taxes are now calculated from the taxable property value of $400,000 with no exemptions. So $400,000 divided by 1,000 times the millage will put your new taxes at just over $7,000. So when you're on Zillow or Realtor.com, or my personal favorite, AliceCooperTeam.com, you'll have to be really careful about relying on the listed amount of taxes because chances are the amount you're going to pay in today's market will be higher. But don't let this scare you from buying a home. Sometimes the opposite is true. Let's say you're buying a home from an investor and he's owned the property for a year. The assessed value is going to be about the same, and you may qualify for exemptions like homestead that the investor was not able to take advantage of, which means your property taxes would actually be lower than what's listed. Fortunately, the Volusia County Tax Appraiser's website has a calculator that can give you a really good ballpark on what your actual property taxes are going to be at the current value. So you can easily find it by Googling Volusia County Tax Calculator. I know this is a ton to take in, but bottom line is remember when you see property tax amounts listed, that's not necessarily the amount you're going to pay. The good news is if you're working with a lender, they're going to be able to help you get this information. So also speak to your realtor and then you'll be able to make a confident decision when you're buying your home. Until next time, rock on, rock stars.